Welcome to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. This is Greg Voisin, the host of Inside Personal Growth. And joining us from Point Loma, California, actually San Diego, it's just a kind of a suburb, but it's a real popular one, is Alexandra Watkins. And the book is Hello, My Name is Awesome, How to Create Brand Names That Stick. Alexandra, how are you today?
I'm great. It's nice to see you again. It's nice to hear you say Point Loma, and it's great that we've met in person here.
Yeah, we actually got to meet in person. That doesn't happen often with me because my guests come from all over the world, but it's a pleasure having you here. I want to say something. This particular book is the completely revised and updated book with new tools, triumphs, and train wrecks, as she said. So, and it does have lots of tools in it for you. So, this is an option for my listeners. Also, she's got free mini classes. Her website is eatmywords.com. There's a test a name. There's a pet tab about her services. You can contact her. Also, her course and her free mini master classes, which I'm going to encourage my listeners to go up and check out. But do check out eatmywords.com. That's a great place. So, Alexandra, let me tell them a little about you. She's the chief executive boss lady at Eat My Words, is a leading and outspoken authority on brand names. Her breakthrough creativity book, Hello, My Name is Awesome, the one we're going to talk about, is considered the brand name Bible and was named a top 10 marketing book by Inc. magazine. Since 2004, uh, she has and her firm created love at first sight brand names for clients from Amazon to Xerox. Her own name Hall of Fame includes Wendy's Baconator, the Nitro robotic vacuum, Smitten ice cream, Spanish language, and Gringo Lingo frozen yogurt franchise, and Spoon Me and Church of Cupcakes. I love that one. Prior to Eat My Words, she was an advertising copywriter working at leading West Coast ad agencies, including Ogilvy and Mather, where she worked for 5 years, helping launch Microsoft Windows and learning the language of geek speak. In the mid 90s, she jumped onto the dot-com gravy and rode the train until it crashed on her in her backyard in San Francisco. Um, so in her free time, she's very creative. She's imaginative, succulent arranger in unexpected containers. And I've been to her house, so I can tell you she's got them all over. But there's more about her at her own website. So again, just go to eatmywords.com and check it out. Well, let's get into the book. All of our listeners out there have many of them her own businesses or work for a company, have gone through, you know, branding exercises and changes. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. I mean, I skipped a bunch because your bio was a lot bigger than that. And how you became so well known in the art of branding. Why was it that, you got this accolade for being like Inc. magazine's top book plus the one that would help somebody name their company?
Well, my background is I was an advertising copywriter for a very long time. And every once in a while, I would get thrown a bone and get to name something. And I loved it. And I was really good at it. So when I found out that naming was actually a profession, which I did not know, I switched gears and became a namer. And how I made a name for myself, haha, is I realized pretty quickly when I was freelancing for all of these other naming firms that naming firms do names that are based on, Latin linguistics. They're not really conceptual. And in advertising, I was used to making ads that made strong emotional connections with people. So I realized there was a gap that needed to be filled. A naming firm that would do names that made people smile instead of scratch their head. So that's what Eat My Words does. So yeah, like with the Wendy's Baconator or Spoon Me frozen yogurt or the Spanish language school Gringo Lingo, those are all names that make people smile, and that's what we're known for.
Yeah, and you have so many really great examples of the work that you've done. Um, and I want to say you mentioned in this book that your first book was published in 2014. And that this newly revised edition has a lot more ways of brainstorming tools, or a lot more brainstorming tools, and that you made significant modifications to what you call your 12-point name evaluation. And at the website, you've got take a name test or test to name. Could you tell the listeners a little bit more about the tools and how they might use them um, to basically create a new brand for their business?
Sure. Well, the tool, the Smile and Scrub, well, uh, the free mini master class can help you if you go under course, naming course. You'll learn about the course, and I think there's just some free. We're changing everything on the website right now. There should be some free lessons, a mini master class you can do. So that will help kind of teach you how to create better names. But the Smile and Scratch test, where on the homepage you just click on test a name, that's where you can. That's the 12-point name evaluation test. It's been featured in the Wall Street Journal and used by tens of thousands of people to evaluate their name. So, SMILE is an acronym for the 5 qualities that make a name awesome. And SCRATCH is the flip side when they're all the deal breakers. So, I always say if it makes you scratch your head, scratch it off the list. So, the acronym SMILE stands for the S stands for suggestive. You want your name to suggest a positive brand experience, right? Don't make people guess, don't be ambiguous. The M stands for memorable. What makes the name memorable is if it's something that already exists in our knowledge base. So, for instance, the bike lock company Kryptonite. We all know Kryptonite from Superman. We see the correlation. Hey, if Kryptonite is repelling Superman, then Kryptonite bike locks is going to repel bike thieves. So that's like a memorable name that is a great metaphorical name. The
I.
I stands for
Mhm.
imagery. So like kryptonite, right? It has great imagery. You hear it, you see it, you totally picture Superman like ah. So yeah, so you want your name to have imagery because if people hear your name and they can picture something in their head, it's going to be easier for them to recall it later. Okay,
Now,
what's the
what?
next one?
Let me ask you a question while we're in the middle. We're in SMI. Now we have L and E, but I do want to throw one at you. You've been mentioning a lot about coming up with this, and kryptonite is the reason I say this. When somebody does this, and there was a question I had, we might as well get to it now. When you go to get a domain name, or you find out that somebody else has the kryptonite thing. Um, what is it that you tell people the iteratively to do? I mean, you obviously say don't give up. There's other ways to change the name. If this is, you're like, well, I gotta have kryptonite. No, you don't have to have it because legally you're going to get a cease and desist from somebody who's already got it, right? What do you find in that arena as far as
Well, Greg, I don't think everybody knows not to give up. A lot of people do give up. A lot of people start looking for a name. They just start on GoDaddy. And like that's the last thing we do is look for domain names. So yeah, if Kryptonite's not available, because and it wouldn't be because the bike lot
right?
company or somebody
Yeah,
else has it, who knows? We just say add a modifier. So, Kryptonite locks would be a really easy modifier. Um, if there's a lot of creative workarounds with domain
right,
names. So for
right.
instance, we were naming a gourmet popcorn store Pop Psychology. We couldn't get the domain name, so we used the tagline, which was crazy for popcorn.
Oh,
So
good.
there's that. And my favorite one is a gourmet. It's a smoked turkey, a mail order turkeys, right? And the company is called Greenberg Smoked Turkeys. Not a clever name or anything, family name, but their domain name is unforgettable, and it's gobblegobble.com.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
really good one. Well,
Yeah.
let me continue. Let me have you continue on for the listeners. We were at
Okay.
SMIL.
Yeah. So the L in smile, hold on one second. I have a bit of a cold. The L in smile stands for legs. And legs means that you can extend your brand through wordplay, right? So an example is, uh, let me think. Jimmy Buffett, God rest his soul, has, he's licensed his name to a number of things. And one of them is a retirement community, and it's a big chain for 55 plus. And it's called Latitude Margaritaville, right? So we know Margaritaville from Jimmy Buffett's songs. So, and his changes in latitude, right? So the street names are like Tiki Terrace, um, one is, I think, Salt Shaker Way. He has, there's the post office is called the Coconut Telegraph. The
Uh
gym is called Fins Up. The dog park is called Barcaritaville.
huh.
So that's a name with legs, right? Eat My Words, my company. We have a new value menu. Our blog is called The Kitchen Sink. We have packages like, our new packages names are really cute. They're small fry. So these are for like, you know, really, bootstrapping entrepreneurs. Small fry, fun size, and snack pack. So,
Uh-huh.
those are really fun, evocative, memorable, and they all tie into Eat My Words, right? Food and beverage. So
Hmm.
that's why a name with legs, it's hard to do, but if you have one, you're golden. And your customers love it too because they'll come up with ideas for you.
So
Um,
L, what's the E for?
E stands for emotional. Your name has to make an emotional connection with your target, or it's going to go right over their head. So, yeah, so that's why if you can have a name that makes people smile, that's a great emotion to have, right? That's really one of the best emotions to have is making someone smile. And that
Yeah.
triggers something in our brain that's gonna, it's that little jolt of dopamine, right? We all want that. So that's smile.
Well, that's a good one. I always wonder, and you probably know more about these, but I want you to talk to the listeners. You mentioned some memorable domain names. You were just talking about some of them that people had as a result of creative workarounds, which you mentioned even before when we run into a roadblock or we don't want to give up. Can you speak with us about getting a domain name and how not to get hung up on the one that we want if it's not available?
Yeah, well, let me tell everybody this that will make, I think, people feel better. For the first 13 years that Tesla was in business, their domain name was not Tesla.com. So if you had gone to Tesla.com, you would have seen a very ominous looking screen that said, "This site is owned by GandhiNet." Now, if you were in the market for a Tesla, what would you do? Would you give up? Like, can't find it. No, you just go to your browser, go to Google, and type in another word with Tesla. Tesla cars, test drive a Tesla, whatever, Tesla showroom, and boom, you would see Tesla. You click on it, you're there. Have you even noticed what the domain name is? No. Do you care? No. Are you not going to buy a Tesla because they don't own Tesla.com? No. So if Tesla was able to be wildly successful with TeslaMotors.com was their domain name, then you can do the same. Facebook for until 2010 was thefacebook.com. Basecamp and Dropbox both had millions of users, and their domain names were respectively Basecamp HQ and Get Dropbox. So
Ah,
them let the roadblock stop them. They just added a word. And sometimes companies they come around, they get the money, they pony it up and they buy it, but other times they don't. And nobody expects anyone to own an exact match domain name anymore.
very good. That's great advice. It really is. I mean, because I know there's a lot of people that come up with these brainstorming great ideas and then they go look on Google and they go, "Oh crap, it's already taken by somebody or somebody wants,
Yeah.
10,000 or $10,000 for it, whatever they're asking for the domain name." I get that. Um,
Yeah, can I just tell everyone, if you want to see like how bad it is out there, go to a website called Brand Bucket. They sell their aftermarket domain names and they're hideously bad. They're terrible, but that's all that's left, and they're not real words. And if they are real words, they don't make any sense mashed together. So yeah, that's all that there is. Just add a modifier word, make your name a name that people can spell, pronounce, and remember. That, yeah, and no one cares about your domain name. They really don't.
that's great. That was a great story about Tesla too, because I just bought one in December. I don't remember typing in Tesla or whatever. I just typed in test drive Tesla, like you said, and it's going to
Yeah,
take you where you need to go. So I
yeah.
think people need to remember that. Now you speak in the book with about creative brief. And I don't think a lot of people listening here know what a creative brief is, but somebody like you in advertising is. What is it? Why should we do this before we start to brainstorm the name?
A creative brief is your roadmap. So a lot of people start brainstorming by, they're having a glass of wine with their friend, or they are in a conference room sitting at, look, sitting in a white room, staring at a whiteboard is not how colorful ideas materialize.
Right.
So the first thing you want to do is fill out a creative brief. So you have so you have something you can check back with to make sure, does your name fit your strategy and your goals? So
Hmm.
the brief is in my book, by the way. And it's also, if you do my course, you get the brief. The brief is, it will ask you for, the background of your company. What tone and personality do you want for your brand and name? Do you want a name that's playful? Do you want a name that's more serious? So it will ask you that. Tell us about your target audience, because you want to be aware of them. And you want a name that resonates with them. We talked about making an emotional connection. It's really important that your audience gets your name. People want to feel clued in, not clueless. So the brief will ask you to write an acid test sentence where you use your name in the sentence. So you're going to be doing things like that. And that way, and also when you start brainstorming, you can look to your brief for words to start brainstorming with. They're not going to be your name, but if you were naming, a new bike lock like kryptonite, and you were, security, secure was a word in your brief, you could look up metaphors for security, right? You might see Fort Knox. So things like that. So
Right.
yeah, that's what a brief can help you with. And you absolutely, I can never start a project without a brief.
You were mentioning earlier over a bottle of wine or people in a whiteboard room or whatever, and you're saying that, that isn't really where you should go to do this. What are some of the secrets for brainstorming, and how can we create the best name if we're alone? In other words, hey, we're a entrepreneur, we come up with an idea and we want to brainstorm. We're not going to take it to a lot of friends. We're not going to have bottles of wine with Joe and Mary and Bob to do the name. How can I prepare myself to get into this creative state of mind that I need to be in to actually do some brainstorming around a name?
Well, fill out your creative brief so you have somewhere to start. And then just, look, go to a thesaurus, right? Like if you were looking up the word secure, go to a thesaurus. If you get the book, there's tons of brainstorming exercises. My course is like my book on steroids and Technicolor. There's way more brainstorming lessons in there. But you will, do things like, one trick I do is I look at stock photos. So, if I was looking up security, for instance, I could look at stock photos. Like, what are some images that are coming up? Thesaurus. ChatGPT really sucks for names right now, but it could help you kick off your brainstorming by giving you other words to explore. Yeah, I use rhyming dictionaries, right? I was naming the frozen yogurt store, Spoon Me. The client really liked the word yo. And so I looked up yo and I saw, I came up with Joe Yo and Chacho Yo. So yeah, do not discount a rhyming dictionary. The one I use is called Rhyme Zone. So those are
Rhyme
some,
zone. That's a
yeah,
good that's a good hint for people. I know that in the past when I've done it, the most creative space I've been in by myself was exactly what you said. I actually picked up a thesaurus and I used the thesaurus to stimulate my brain to actually come up with some creative names. What's your sense about testing these names once you get them? In other words, hey, I want to take these out to my group of friends. I want to see what they think. There's always going to be doomsayers out there, but what do you feel
yeah,
about testing a name?
not a fan.
Right.
No namer's a fan. No, what happens when you show names to people, whether it's a survey monkey or you're asking someone, what do you think of this new name? What they hear is, what don't you like about this name? When you ask someone for their opinion, it's an invitation to criticize. So instead, run your name through the smiley and scratch test. If you really want to get an opinion on it, I just was on one of these calls. You can hire me to do a professional name review. I'll review up to 40 of your names, and they're really enlightening and eye-opening. And I encourage anybody to do one before you pull the trigger. The smile and scratch test can help you, but there's if you have a lot of names, go for the name evaluation, but yeah, do not ask people what they think. The only time we do that is if you're not in the target audience, so you're advertising to teenagers, like you don't know their latest slang. You want to make sure that and not don't ask what do you think of this name. Just name, you know, what does this name mean to you, or you just want to check the urban dictionary, right? That's a hotbed of slang. A lot of it's super sexual and gross. But the way I use the urban dictionary is, if there's a lot, if there's 500 or more thumbs up to something, that means it's probably in the lexicon of teens. But if there's not a lot of people that commented on it, then we just go for it.
And all these dictionaries that you're recommending, are they all online? People can
Yeah,
just type in your urban
yeah,
dictionary and then just sort of
yeah,
do the search. Yeah,
yep,
so much. Yeah, okay. So look, rebranding is a big deal for people out there listening, and it happens a lot. People talk, well, we need a facelift. The company needs something more. It needs some juice, or there's somebody very similar to us out there that's stealing part of our audience because they have very close and they're in the same business, right? It's not,
yeah.
they're in the same. Lots of people think that they need to rebrand, and it happens a lot. What are some of the pros and cons of rebranding?
Well, to me, the only con is that, you're going to have to pay for new materials. But we have renamed two businesses that are more than 100 years old. And so it's never too late to change your name. The great thing now about rebranding, changing your name compared to the old days, in the old days, how would you let your customers know? There was no internet, there was no email. And now you rebrand, you do a redirect of your website from your old name to your new name. So it's really seamless. People don't even notice until they get to the new site. You send out emails to your customers. It's a great reason to get back in touch with everybody you ever work for, and tell the story of why you're changing your name. You do, in social media, it's just really easy now for somebody to find you
Yeah.
and for you to get your story out there. And it doesn't cost anything, right? Unless you're doing advertising, and you're paying for, people subscribe to like MailChimp, so it's no extra to send out an email to let people know. But yeah, I recommend rebranding. If like the one of the ones we did for one of the 100-year-old companies was a bank, and it was named First National Bank of Syracuse. but it was in Syracuse, Kansas, not Syracuse, New
New
York.
York.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and it just sounded like every other First National bank. So they were really a maverick bank. They wanted a maverick name. The first naming agency they hired wanted to name them Maverick Bank. And when I talked to them, because they needed someone they knew, said, "Hey, call Alexandra, just check in." And I said, "Look, nobody wants a bank to be a maverick with their money. You want your bank to be a safe place to park your money. You're getting a modicum of interest, but it's safe, right? FDIC insured. Maverick, who you want to be a maverick with your money is your stockbroker that's
Right.
or like investing in NFTs and crypto. That's a maverick thing to do, but not a bank. Banks are safe. So they were all about making dreams come true. They were an agriculture company. They funded a lot of farms. They helped people buy really expensive farm equipment. They had served generations of families. So we rebranded them Dream First.
Oh,
And
that's very
yeah,
cool.
thank
That's
you.
very, that's a
Thank you.
good name. Then that
Thank
so
you.
the National Bank of Syracuse became Dream First.
Yeah, First National Bank of Syracuse became Dream First. So they kept the first. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I'm sure they were happy with that one because
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you, that was a tough one because there's most of the people at the bank had been there for like 25 years or more. And so, there's people that get emotionally attached to names, but yeah, everybody loved the new names. And that happened with the healthcare company, healthcare chain of healthcare service centers that we named. They were called Queen's Care, and they had had that name for 100 years or more. Everybody was attached to the name. They were forced to change it, and they didn't want to change it. And that's always really hard for us because, here they are, they're so attached, and like anything we present with them, it's not going to hold a candle to the old name. But we gave them a name that they love, and it's Grace Light, because it's a faith-based healthcare centers,
right.
and so Grace Light, it's a really pretty name. Yeah, Grace Light Health Centers. Yeah,
Question for you on those old names, you look at like Ray Kroc bought McDonald's or the
yeah,
franchise, right? And McDonald's brothers in in San Bernardino started it, and then he got in there, and the brand grew and grew and grew. Things like that, or Apple or others, you haven't seen, and I don't think they ever would change it, but I have seen taglines change. Do you
yeah.
want to talk a little bit about the tagline and how important it is
Yeah,
to
and
identifying?
taglines can change. Like, for the longest time, uh, fast signs had the tagline "More than fast, more than signs." They clearly outgrew their name and should have changed it. And I saw they finally did change their name. But yeah, if you have an iconic tagline like Nike, just do it. They're never going to change it. But yeah,
Right,
you can change your tagline as your business evolves. It's perfectly fine to change your tagline. Your tagline should play off the name. So our tagline is fresh names and taglines that stick, and or fresh lines and taglines to go, I think is what I changed it to. But yeah, tagline, it's important. It can elevate your name, and it really helps if you have a name that your tagline can play off of. So, for instance, we worked on with Oregon hazelnuts, and their tagline that I did is "Indulgence in a nutshell."
ah,
So yeah, yeah.
indulgence in a nutshell. That's a good one. That's
Yeah,
really good.
or the Church of Cupcakes, their tagline is "Worshipers Welcome."
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Is
I love
that
those taglines, and I know a tagline when you get a really cool name and you want it to connect with that tagline, meaning, the tagline can be really, really important. And some of the ones you just shared with me are really cool. And there's thousands and thousands of others. So I'm going to direct my listeners to go to your website, eatmywords.com, because that's where you're going to find more about the free mini classes and the course, the book, the services, and her portfolio. So In wrapping this interview up, if you were to leave our listeners with three key points from your book, what would they be and how can they put these ideas in place, either during a rebranding or with a new name? What three things would you want to leave them with?
Definitely look at the scratch part of the chest of all the things that you don't want your name. You don't want it to be spelling challenge, hard to pronounce. Like those are the two really big ones. So make sure take the free test and you'll go through scratch. The other thing is, yeah, don't start at GoDaddy looking for a name. Just worry about your domain name later. A great place to brainstorm domain names is called namestudio.com. And then the other thing is, think of your name, like your name is going to last longer than any other investment you make in your business. Think how long you've had your own first and last name, how many times you've used it, you've written it, you've said it, other people have written it and said it. And think about your brand name the same way. And when you're starting out with a clean slate, like if your name has any difficulty, like Greg, your last name is hard for people to pronounce and spell. So when you're naming a brand, like why would you want to give your brand the same disadvantages? So when you're starting out with a clean slate, don't give your name any disadvantages and keep in mind that your name is going to last forever. So make it good and make it a name that you love.
It's interesting you say that because a long time ago, when I was in the financial services industry, my last name is Voisin. It's actually pronounced, if you're French, Voisin, but in here it's Voisin. And I actually put a hyphen in between voice and in, VOI hyphen I, and I put I'm your voice in your financial future.
Oh, I like
So,
that. That's good.
so in other words, I just put voice hyphen IN, and it worked. I used it for a long time. I think people remembered it. The thing is it's real easy to remember when you do something like that if you do have a hard last name.
Oh, absolutely. I always tell people, and I ask people that have difficult names, like, how do you get people to remember it? So yeah, if you do have a difficult first or last name, give people an easy way to remember it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well, great advice for our listeners and for all of our listeners. Please go out and get a copy of this book. We'll have a link to Amazon. We'll also have a link to our website where you can learn more about the book as well. She's got a button at her website, Let's Talk. Do reach out to Alexandra and talk to her because she's really got some great ideas. She will get back to you. She's interested in helping you create another new brand and name for yourself that is memorable, you're not going to scratch your head when you when you look at it. So if it has the as you said the attributes of the smile and scratch test, which is in the book, when you buy this book, that's one of the tools that you get. That's the best way to go. Any parting words, Alexandra?
Yeah, I'm just gonna tell everybody my favorite name ever is a bike pump named Joe Blow.
Oh, there, that's a good one. Was that one
Thank
you
you.
named?
No,
No.
unfortunately not.
But it is a good one. Joe
Yeah,
Blow, that is a good one. Most
yeah.
certainly. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on Inside Personal Growth and spending a few minutes with our listeners, giving them an idea and talking about your new book, Hello, My Name is Awesome, and how to create brand names that stick, and actually how to use the smile and scratch test. That was a really good advice. Thanks you, Alexandra, for being on our show and spending some time with me so that the rest of the listeners can learn more about you and your website, which is eatmywords.com. Namaste to you.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.